My name is Dave Ruel, and people know me online as the Muscle Cook because I am known for my recipes. I am Canadian from Eastern Canada, from Moncton, New Brunswick. I've been a fitness professional for a few years now. I'm a competitive bodybuilder as well. I designed, I would say, 80% of my recipes when I was dieting for bodybuilding shows. Because basic bodybuilding diet, there was no way I was eating that for 12 weeks. Got inventive and tried to play with my food a little bit, and I came up with these mix. So it's just a matter of I experimented a lot with my food, and I did most of my cooking, when I needed to be very strict with my diet, so I need to be inventive with my recipes. This is where the passion all started. So no need to say I'm passionate about fitness, nutrition, and of course cooking. So far I've helped multiple thousand people, improve their cooking skills and nutrition in general through this book and through my website. So that's me. Nutrition is 80% of your goal, pretty much like 80% of your results, and it's actually true. Well, I don't know about the percentage, but I mean, it's a very important, probably the most important part, of bodybuilding or fat loss, whatever your goal is. It's the most important part, and probably the part of fitness that people struggle the most with. More than often, it's because people overcomplicate nutrition a whole lot. You see a whole lot of big philosophies about nutrition, how nutrition should be complicated. Should I go low carb? Should I go low carb? Should I go high fat? I go no fat? Should I go high protein? What's the deal with it? And a lot of people overcomplicate things. I have a very simple approach. I think, you should see the big picture instead of asking yourself too many questions and just failing. And my big philosophy actually is that nutrition for bodybuilding and fitness shouldn't be boring. That's the thing, and that's why most people fail. They think that it should be only composed of boiled chicken breasts, steamed broccoli, sweet potatoes, and that's it. The main purpose of that cookbook is provide quick and easy recipes to people involved in general fitness. So most of these recipes, you can adapt them to pretty much any muscle building meal plans or fat loss meal plans. They're all very easy to do. Some of my recipes would take a little bit more preparation. However, everybody can cook those. If I can do it, I'm not a cook. I didn't go to culinary school or anything like that. I'm a self-made cook. And if I can do it, and you can do it. So again, they're very easy to do that. I kept that in mind. Give you an idea of what you can get in my book as far as recipes. Breakfast recipes, vanilla cream oatmeal, Reese's-style oatmeal, nannies, apple pie oats, sweet potato pancakes, high-protein banana bread, high-protein muffins like blueberry vanilla, apple and cinnamon muffins, omelet scrambles, Mexican breakfast scrambles, spinach scramble, broccoli frittata, turkey spinach omelets. Those are great breakfast ideas. Different chicken and poultry recipes. Very famous turkey meatloaf. That's one of my, if not my most famous recipe. Baked crispy chicken nuggets, Italian chicken parmesan, chicken marsala, chicken cacciatore, Mexican chicken, tangy Thai chicken. Anyway, southern fried chicken. It's not fried chicken, but it's called southern fried chicken. There's a twist to it. Different red meat. The Muscle Cook's chili, very, very good healthy chili. I get buffalo burger recipe, London broiled beef bombs. That's actually a pretty cool recipe with some bell peppers. Pork recipes as well. I get pulled pork recipe, different fish and seafood, tuna melt patties, salmon burgers, Creole tilapia, baked oregano salmon, just to give you an idea. Different salad soups and sides options. Almond chicken salad, for example. I get my crispy baked sweet potato. That's an awesome side. Different soups as well, and dips. I even got a guilt-free spinach dip. I know a lot of people love these spinach dips. I got a guilt-free spinach dip in my cookbook. Different snacks and bars recipes. My high-protein fudge bars, awesome, pretty addicting bars actually. You got to be careful. High-protein blueberry cookies, high-protein granola bars. And I got a few actually high-protein and fitness-friendly desserts like strawberry meringues, lemon cheesecake, for example. I'm going to run down the different type of macronutrients. The 3 macros are important, and I never sacrifice any of these nutrients. Of course, when I go, let's say I go on fat loss mode, I'm going to reduce my carbohydrates, but I never cut completely any of those three macronutrients. So we're going to start with protein, which is, of course, the most popular macronutrient, for muscle building or even fat loss. Basically, protein is used by your body to repair damaged muscle. So when you train, it's very important that you get enough protein, or when you train with weights or involved in fitness bodybuilding, that you have enough protein in your diet. So basically, I can give you like a few sources of proteins, of my favorite sources of proteins, and where you can get them. One of the favorite and probably one of the best ones is eggs. Okay, so that's one of the best complete protein sources that you can get on the planet. Fish also is an excellent source of protein, very complete source of protein. White fish, more than likely, is very low in fat and pretty much composed of 90% protein. So those are very, very good sources of protein. Other fish, for example, like salmon, are very high in fat, very good fat, but I'm going to address that later when I'm going to talk about fat. Poultry, chicken, turkey, very, very lean sources of protein, very good. Should be pretty much the staples of your protein intake. Red meat, of course, lean red meat, because red meat can be very high in fats and mostly, animal fats, which are saturated fats, but very lean red meat. My favorite red meat is buffalo meat or game meat. I love pretty much any game meat, but buffalo meat is my favorite. You're going to see in my cookbook, I'll probably notice in my cookbook that I cook a lot with buffalo meat. It doesn't taste much different from beef. Actually, I think it tastes a little bit better. But it's a very lean meat. Like, for example, a lean cut of buffalo meat is about 7 to 8% fat, which is very, very lean. Compared, for example, to extra lean ground beef, for example, is about 12% fat. Well, a lot of people might hate me for it, but I love horse meat as well. And it's one of the leanest meat, you can come across here. It's very cheap as well, and I'm a big fan of horse meat. We got moose meat as well down here, Eastern Canada. We're very lucky to have moose. It's a very, very lean meat, very tasty. It's very gamey, but it's a very lean source. So I try, to get most of my red meat from game meat, buffalo meat, for example. But I mean, nothing wrong with beef at all. But beef tends to be a little bit more fat than the game meat or buffalo meat. You can also get protein from dairy products. I try not to get too much protein from dairy products. However, it's still a very legit source of protein. So that's pretty much it as my main sources of protein. Of course, you can supplement with protein powder, which is very convenient when you need a consequent amount of protein in your diet. But as far as solid food, those sources are pretty much my favorite sources. I can't say you can overboard with protein. Sometimes we overestimate our protein needs and underestimate our other nutrient needs. I still go high protein, and I'm a big fan of a high protein diet. I'm not gonna lie, and that's my approach. For example, I can go as high as 50% in my diet, but I see people going into fat loss diets, and go as high as 80% protein in their diets. That's a bit too much. So I would say, be aware that you still need a fair amount of protein, but for example, a woman should shoot for about 20 grams of protein per meal. A man can safely go 40 grams of protein per meal. But again, that's very important, and protein is, if not the most important nutrient, when you're into a fitness lifestyle. So again, you have to be careful, but don't overestimate your needs for protein. My comfort range for me is 40% of my caloric intake would come from protein. You absolutely need enough protein to build muscle. If you don't have any protein in your diet, you're not going to build the muscle you want. You're not going to get the results. And it's the same thing for fat loss. If you don't have enough protein in your diet, you're going to lose muscle. So a lot of people are afraid to lose muscle when they're on a fat loss diet, but this is the time when you should consume enough protein. When I'm going for fat loss, my caloric intake is 50% from protein. And I never lose any muscle, when I'm dieting for a bodybuilding show, for example. So I think, you should still keep your protein very high, but there's a lot of unfounded, myths about too much protein, like kidney failures and stuff like that. I mean, if you have kidney problems, you shouldn't go on a high protein diet. But for a normally healthy human, there's nothing unsafe about, a high protein diet. Now we can move to carbohydrates. So carbs. Carbs, basically, it's an essential nutrient. It's something you can live without carbs, but it's very I wouldn't suppress carbs from your diet. It took a real bashing, from diets such as the Atkins diet or the South Beach diet. Those no carbs diet, I'm not a big fan of it. I would favorize a low carb diet, but I'm not a big fan of keto diets that are low carb diets. There's two main types of carbohydrates, simple and complex. Pretty much you should always have complex carbohydrates. The only time you should have simple carbohydrates is post-workout. I can't see any other times where you should get simple carbohydrates. The simple reason is that simple carbohydrates, which are sugars and all these types that have a high glycemic index, they're going to spike your insulin levels. Basically, you can store your nutrients in your fat storage. All right, so that's what you don't want. So pretty much you should avoid spiking your insulin unless you want to build muscle and you consume the simple carbohydrates post-workout. Simple carbohydrates can be found in table sugar. Honey is a simple carbohydrate. Anything sugary pretty much is a simple carbohydrate, and that's the ones you want to avoid. Different sources of complex carbs: brown rice, oatmeal, sweet potatoes, yams. Most whole wheat products are complex carbohydrates. The glycemic index is pretty much, they ranked it in three categories: low, medium, and high glycemic index. High glycemic index are foods that are going to spike your insulin very quickly. Those are the type of foods you want to avoid. Medium GI are not bad. They're not going to spike your insulin a whole lot. A lot of the foods are medium GI foods, and low GI foods are foods that are pretty much not going to spike your insulin at all, or not a whole lot. Low carb diet work for fat loss. They work great. However, you should still get a good intake of carbs, mostly actually from fruits and vegetables, so some fibrous carbs. This is where I get most of my carbs, and complex carbs as well. I think the issue people have is timing. Is how to manage the timing of carbohydrates intake. From my personal experience and from what I saw on my clients, the best result you're going to get for both muscle building and fat loss is to have most of your carbohydrates from complex sources, and mostly in the first part of the day. So most of your carbohydrates during breakfast and your first snack and your lunch. So for example, you can get a bowl of oatmeal in the morning as carbohydrates. That's a very low GI complex source of carbohydrates. You can have a banana or an apple, for your snack, along with a source of protein, some brown rice or sweet potato for lunch. But then, as the day goes on, your metabolism slows down, and you don't need as much energy, and we become more than likely less active, during the second part of the day. So this is where you need less carbs. But the fact that you eat complex carbohydrates and low GI carbohydrates on the first part of the day, it's going to be enough to give you a good flow of energy through the day. So this is where you should focus on, is still getting carbs, but really focus on the timing and when you consume your carbs. But you should, I'm not a big fan of keto. Keto is when you go no carbs at all. You're going to lack a lot of nutrients in that way. So it's a lot of bodybuilders use that technique, to burn a lot of fat in a short period of time. In my opinion, it's not very healthy, and I've seen actually as good, if not better, results with diets that include carbohydrates. I would never take any carbohydrates out of any diet. There's always going to be carbohydrates in my meal plans. Now, the last one, fat. People became frightened by the word fat, and they think, they should eat the less fat possible in order to lose weight. And that's wrong. You need fats to function properly. You need the three nutrients, but fat is very important for your whole vital functions of your body. So you need that. There's different types of fats. That you have the monounsaturated fats, which would come mostly from nuts, avocados as well, but most nuts are monounsaturated fats. You have polyunsaturated fats. Those are very good fats, by the way. Those are the kind of fats that you want. Polys, such as omega-3s, omega-6, can be found in salmon, for example. I'll talk about salmon earlier. Salmon is a very good food source of polyunsaturated fat. So those are the types that you want. Saturated fat, this one's on the bad list, but it's not as bad, as we think. For example, egg yolks are saturated fats, although it's not all bad. That's what I want to say. You can safely consume saturated fats. The problem is the overconsumption of saturated fats that can be dangerous and lead, to bad cholesterol and stuff like that. However, there's nothing bad with limited intake of saturated fats. The fats that you want to avoid, on the other hand, are trans fats. Those are the ones. They come from, vegetable oils and all these things. And you hear that a lot of fast food chains are now, using different alternatives to fry their foods other than vegetable oil just because of those trans fats. Those trans fats are not going to be used for your body for anything. So those are the ones you want to avoid at all costs. So mono, polyunsaturated fats, perfectly fine. Those are the fats you want to get. Again, you get them from sources like nuts. You get them from avocados. You can get them from, supplements as well with omega-3 or fish oils. You can get them from your foods as well, like foods like salmon, natural peanut butter, very, very good healthy fats source, almond butter, almonds, well, any nuts for that matter. Or you can supplement with, different fish oils like I said. So different ways to get those essential macronutrients. But I mean, there's some, the examples I gave you are pretty much the staples of the muscle building or fat loss, diets. And those are the ones you should have, in your fridge or your cupboards at any time.